8:26 on the clock, and welcome back. School is back in session, and it's another year where artificial intelligence will maybe in your child's classroom.
Yeah, joining us this morning, Dr. Grogan from Wayne State University to talk about the highlights and benefits of AI in education. Dr. Grogan, we appreciate your time. For people who aren't familiar, how is AI being used in education right now?
Well, the post-secondary level, that's a big question. There's a lot of different departments and a lot of different ways it's being used. I mean, at the heart of it right now, of course, we have like offices of teaching and learning at Wayne State and other universities and colleges. They're kind of responsible for facilitating how it's being integrated. I think the general sense is that, it's not going away, and students use it already a lot. So it's shaping their experiences, it's also shaping the way we teach and learn. It's at that level, it's a pretty radical transformation, the way people teach and learn. There are skeptics, and they've got to have room for skeptics' voices. They're important, but really it's about working it in a smart, iterative way so that, everybody's getting used to how it can impact learning in positive ways. So trying to take an optimistic angle on it is, I think, pervasive right now. And yeah, that's sort of the general overview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of times recently we have been hearing of some of maybe the drawbacks of AI, but there are some positive benefits to what you were just discussing there. What are some things that maybe teachers or professors alike might be using in their classrooms to kind of maybe streamline the classroom, but also maybe streamline lessons or things like that? What are some benefits?
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. There's real negativity bias about it at first. It's such a rapid change that, I think people are worried about cheating. But, at universities and colleges, most of our work is really process-oriented work, right? So we work with students. So for instance, I teach professional and technical writing a lot. It's a writing process, or a research and writing process is a complex, effort-heavy thing. And we're looking for more opportunities to make it engaging and fun, and something you can do with AI and use it to supplement and encourage critical thinking. We also get to, as a teacher, take a look at how we're teaching these things and interact with AI ourselves so that we can figure out ways to make our work more engaging, more up to date, more fun, and reach different types of learners in the classroom, so we can differentiate the way we teach a little bit, and think about how to encourage what we do is sometimes what AI doesn't do, which makes it, again, not a threat. Like, we teach students how to think and judge and act ethically and learn primarily. So, there's a lot of positives that are coming out of it at least in the worlds that I'm in. I also work in engineering a little bit, and it's really helpful for engineers too to do some of the menial stuff, like help them take notes and help them think about where their software documentation has to go, or where their manufacturing systems capacities. I'm not an engineer, but I help engineers where that might fit into a report. And so there's a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's kind of speaking to the different ways that AI can support both teachers and students. What are some of the ways that you've implemented it in your own classroom?
Yeah, so I was an early adopter. If it felt like a responsibility to do that, when I went to do some workshops and learning with some experts coming out of the American university system, and right away they're like, think about how it can transform your syllabi, and experiment with it, and did some workshops and built in some AI learning outcomes, and tried to be really goal-oriented and intentional in how we're using it. One big thing is that if it's, we always think of it as like speeding things up, and therefore it takes things away. Like, it can write an essay for you. There you go, you're done. But, therefore students didn't have to do any of the thinking and learning along the lines of the process from beginning to end, and writing, a paper or something. So you try to be upfront with students about how it can work and what it takes away. Like, it allows you to do a draft really quick, but it takes away the thought process that you might have enjoyed, and you can think of like MIT's doing these brain image things, and they're all around essay writing. It's like, yeah, so students have to work hard to think and write. Journalists have to work hard to ask the right questions and interact with people. And if you take that away, you're going to miss that, right? So you have to be upfront about that. And but if it does speed up drafts, it gives you more time to think about like what works and what doesn't. So you get more time to revise and more time to do critical thinking, and really opens up time for like reflection. There's a lot of emphasis on building in reflective prompts and metacognition, like thinking about your own thinking in these processes, which is something we already did anyway, but it just gave us a little bit more time and intentionality to do it with students. We didn't have to sound so foreign to students at times. I'm a pretty accessible guy and fun to be around, but I don't think, it's always hard to sort of make sure you're relating to everyone you're working with. So that emphasis on reflection and critical thinking is really key. So nice.
Yeah, absolutely. At the beginning of this interview, you were talking about some of the biases that we have when it comes to AI. Can you talk about risks or misconceptions that people might have when they are thinking about AI, specifically when it comes to maybe education or that space in general?
Yeah, so the biases themselves built into AI is one thing, obviously. There's a lot of positivity bias. There's confirmation bias that'll sort of confirm what you're doing is already smart. And, let's keep going. You're doing such a great job. And if you don't coach students through, thinking maybe a little bit skeptically about the outputs or, asking them to think, sort of recursively or reflectively about how they're learning, then it's difficult. So, and then I guess on the other level, there's biases that people have when they're working with AI, right? There's still some skepticism, and that's okay. Again, you got to be nice to people. As someone who might have been teaching for 35 years, it's going to be hard to sort of start integrating AI quickly, and they might do it in a really lean or minimal way. It does raise a lot of really big and important questions too about quality of work, because we have to sort of redefine quality to some extent. If everyone can use AI, it raises questions about equity and ethics. And what is now good work is changing, and we can really how it's changing right now is that we can think about how we can really focus in on effort and engagement. Like, we want students to show the effort. We can still track that. We want to show the engagement of thought and the engagement of ideas and the engagement of processes that matter. Presenting, maybe a little more time to present their material thoughtfully and effectively, or have more time to rehearse and things like that. So it raises some pretty big issues that I think, if we're thinking about them about equity and equity and ethics, then, that's a positive bias as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents might be skeptical in terms of having their students, teachers introducing AI into the classroom. But can you speak to a little bit why it would be important to have teachers showing kids how to use it responsibly, because it's not going anywhere?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, we're even as adults, you're not inclined to just open up ChatGPT and spend 15 minutes writing a prompt, but maybe that's the right thing to do. And prompt engineering is also writing. So we use different heuristics and guidelines to help students prompt effectively about, for instance, like what you want it to do, the task, the context you're putting in, and spending time to do this. And this is like one of the formulas: task, context, a format that you're looking for in outputs, or genres. And, I'm a nerd about genres, about writing genres. Like, I can think about 15 different kinds of reports, and students can't do that. And you can tell them, well, listen, there's these interesting things that you might be doing for a living, or that would matter to your, not just your career, but to your success as a student. And all that prompting will generate an output that they have to analyze. And you coach them again for how to analyze their own work. Which is not that dissimilar from a writing process, say in the 1970s or 80s, right? Where you're really, again, trying to coach students to have a process of drafting, thinking, revising, maybe tracking the revising. These are kind of writing technologies, although you could do coding and stuff too, of course. But so I think parents should be looking for opportunities to make sure their students get into classes that are, small enough, and maybe not just these passive lecture classes that, where AI might just be something passively being used on your phone to get work done quickly, but where they're being coached through a process. That applies to math really well too. Thinking back to your math days, it's like mapping out your process, and, also relates to the example of, I think people still haven't gotten over this. It's like, oh, we didn't have the same kind of scientific calculators in class that students do now.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the math any easier. Their math is hard, in some ways substantially harder than what we did 15 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've only got about 20 seconds left, but I do want to ask you, what is the important takeaway that you hope that anybody listening to this takes away from this conversation?
Colleges and universities are doing a good job of thinking about the transformation that AI is having on student learning. Most of it will be a positive impact on helping students learn in different ways. It'll help students stay in college in some ways. It's a retention issue. And when we can develop, thoughtful, concrete roles for AI on the projects that matter to students, we'll have more time to interact as people, not just on, in classroom working on tests or on screen. So we'll use AI to integrate oftentimes for more human-to-human contact as well, which will be great.
All right, we have to leave the conversation there, but we so appreciate your expertise and insight on this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.